A few months ago before the NFL season, I made a video in which I predicted which teams would make the playoffs, and now that we're 12 weeks into the NFL season, we have a bit of a clearer picture on what teams have a chance to make the playoffs. And this season there are a whole plethora of loaded divisions with teams that are all fighting for a playoff spot. So today I'm going to be talking about my prediction on what teams will win each division. What's up everybody, it's AC Analysis, and like I said in the intro, today I'm going to be making a video in which I predict which team will win each division. And this season, there are so many divisions in which there are teams that are really fighting for a playoff spot. And some of these divisions are very contested, and then some of them are sad, like the NFC East, in which the teams are fighting to not make the playoffs. But before we get started, if you guys enjoy consistent football content, remember, liking and subscribing would be really helpful. We're on the road to 100 subs now, and we're only 15 off, and every sub helps. And with that being said, let's get right into the video. Actually, before we get started, it's time for the shoutout of the video, and the shoutout for today's video goes to Sports Earth and Woody Nix. They make a cool variety of NFL and gaming content, and you guys should really check them out. And if you guys want a chance to get your channel shouted out, make sure to comment down below, and we can help all of our channels grow together. And with that being said, let's actually get into the video. The first division I'm going to talk about is the AFC East, and believe it or not, the AFC East is actually contested this year, with the Patriots, the Dolphins, and the Bills. We don't really have to put the Jets in here. They're 0-11, they're not going to win. But the Dolphins, Patriots, and Jets on the other hand. Dolphins are 7-4, Patriots are 5-6, and Bills are 8-3. And I don't think the Patriots will win the division, but the Dolphins and Bills on the other hand. They're only one game apart. And this year, the Dolphins are a really young and poised team that look really good to make the playoffs. They have a young team. Their young starting quarterback Tua does have a thumb injury, and he will be out for a few weeks. But lucky for them, they also have Ryan Fitzpatrick as their backup, who was playing earlier in the season. And currently the Dolphins, with Ryan Fitzpatrick, lost to the Broncos, but then they beat the Jets the next week. And looking at their record, I have them going 9-7. The Bills, on the other hand, look to be one of the strongest teams in the league, with Josh Allen this year in the MVP race, throwing 3,000 passing yards, 22 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions, leading his team to 8-3. And he has very strong weapons with Stephon Diggs and John Brown and Devin Singletary. So looking at the Bills' schedule, I have them going 11-5 and winning the division. But really anything could happen because the AFC East is actually fun to watch this year. It's not the Patriots just rolling everybody over. Now it's time for the fun division, the NFC Least. And the NFC Least consists of the New York Giants, the Washington Football Team, the Eagles, and the Cowboys. And no team in this division is currently above 400, with the Giants sitting at the top of the division with a 4-7 record. This is probably the saddest division that I've ever seen. But currently 3 out of the 4 teams in this division are losing their starting quarterback. The football team, the Cowboys, and the Giants. The Eagles are the only one with their starting quarterback in Carson Wentz. But the Giants have a hamstring injury to their quarterback Daniel Jones, and it's not confirmed how long he will miss. But I do believe that if Daniel Jones comes back, the Giants will win the division and get absolutely knocked out in the wild card round. But a starting quarterback is so important to a team that if his injury is too severe, I do believe that the Eagles will win this division, even though a few weeks ago people believed Cowboys were going to win the division because of their impressive win over the Vikings. But to be honest, at this point, any team basically who wins a game is going to win the division, because the Giants are currently sitting at 4-7, and from watching them, I do believe that they are the strongest team in the division. So I have the Giants going 6-10 and winning the division, and then I have the Eagles getting second in the division at 5-10-1. The next division I'm going to talk about is the AFC South, which comprises of the Texans, the Colts, the Jaguars, and the Titans. And last week, I believed that the Colts were going to win the division, until their Sunday matchup against their division rivals, the Titans. And the Colts and Titans are the real two contesters in this division. And I believe that the Colts would have won because of their powerhouse defense and their really strong offense. But after their crucial Sunday game against the Titans, in which they lost 45-26, and in which their defense was really exposed, it really showed me that the Titans had the best chance of winning, because the Titans lost their first matchup against the Colts. They were actually crushed in their first matchup against the Colts. But this week was completely different. The Titans ran all over them with Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry having 200 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns, 140 of it coming in the first half. So it really showed that the Colts aren't as strong as we believed. And I have the Titans winning the division at 11-5, while the Colts lose the division at 10-6. Now it's time for the NFC South, and that comprises of the Falcons, the Saints, the Buccaneers, and the Panthers. And the Falcons and Panthers currently are sitting at under 400, with the Panthers being 3-8 and the Falcons being 4-7. And the Falcons did just absolutely demolish the Raiders, but I still don't think they're going to win the division. It's between the Buccaneers and the Saints. And currently the Saints are sitting at 9-2, while the Buccaneers are at 7-5 after their embarrassing loss to the Chiefs. I expected them to lose to the Chiefs, and I know the score was 27-24, but trust me, the game was a lot farther away than that. The Chiefs absolutely demolished the Buccaneers. And I think it's pretty obvious, even though the Buccaneers, I believe, will still make the playoffs, I think the Saints are going to win. I mean, this year the Buccaneers were very hyped. People were saying Super Bowl. I didn't really believe they were going to win the Super Bowl, but the Saints look really strong. And even after they lost their key component, Drew Brees, to an injury to his ribs and lungs. So it really shows that I believe Taysom Hill is the future of the team, and the team is really good even without Brees. So I do have Saints winning the division. Now it's time for the AFC West, which has the Chiefs, the Raiders, the Broncos, and the Chargers. The Broncos and the Chargers are already not going to make it. Currently the Broncos are at 4-7, while the Chargers are at 3-8. But the Chiefs and Raiders, on the other hand, the Chiefs are 10-1, Raiders are 6-5. I did believe that the Raiders had playoff hopes before I saw them get absolutely demolished by the 4-7 Falcons, 40-6. While the Chiefs, on the other hand, just absolutely demolished the Buccaneers. So I have the Chiefs actually going 15-1, while I have the Raiders going like 8-8, because this team really showed that it has a big weakness on the offensive and defensive side, especially ball. And I know you guys expected Chiefs to win. I'm just saying, Chiefs are going to win. The next division I'm going to talk about is probably the most contested division in football, and that is the NFC West, with currently 3 teams at over 5 wins, with the Seahawks at 7-3, the Rams at 7-4, and the Cardinals at 6-5. And the 49ers are at 5-6, which I think is very impressive, even though they've had over 30 injuries to starters on their team. But the Cardinals, I think that they were really playoff poised until they saw them lose to the Patriots 20-17, in which their weakness was really exposed and Kyler couldn't get anything going against that really suffocating Patriots secondary. But the Rams and Seahawks, on the other hand, are both teams that I really feel like have a good chance of making the playoffs. And the winner, I do believe, is going to be the Seahawks, because the Rams just lost to the 49ers on a pretty bad loss that they really should have won. Jared Goff couldn't get anything going, the receiving game couldn't get anything going, and it was a real letdown compared to the last week's game, in which I really believed they showed that they were a playoff team when they beat the Buccaneers. But the Seahawks are just a very strong team, and they're playing actually in few minutes against the Eagles. I'm going to go watch that game. But they beat the Cardinals, they lost to the Rams, and they've lost some important games, but those games were all very close. So if one team's going to win the division, I really do believe it's going to be the Seahawks, because that Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett offense is just absolutely potent. Only if that defense can actually fix itself up. Probably the second most contested division in football is the AFC North, which consists of the Bengals, the Ravens, the Browns, and the Steelers. And the Bengals are not going to make the playoffs, they're 2-8-1. But the Ravens, Browns, and Steelers is where it gets interesting. And I made a whole video talking about why I believe that the Ravens were not going to make the playoffs, and why I believe that they were a big disappointment. And the Ravens currently sit at 6-4, and they also lost a game to the Patriots in which they really should have won. And the Ravens haven't been playing that good recently. Their defense has not been able to stop the running game. So because of this, I don't see the Ravens making the playoffs. But the Browns and Steelers, that's the real contention. And the Browns, I don't think they're as good as their 8-3 record really predicts, because the Browns barely beat the Texans, barely beat the Eagles, they beat the Jaguars by 2. So their defense isn't playing that well, and they're not really able to crush these bad teams, or, worse teams than them, than they're really expected to, because the Eagles are bottom pack. The Jaguars are really like the 3rd worst team in the league, and they barely beat them. And I know that the Steelers are 10-0, but I don't believe that the Steelers are as good, because they're not playing 2 crazy good teams this year. But purely because of how close some of these Browns games have been, and how they've been losing to teams that they should be winning to, and the fact that they're playing some tough games later down the line, like the Titans and the Ravens, which is always a good matchup, I don't think Browns are going to win the division. And I believe that Steelers will win the division at 13-3, while the Browns will go 11-5, because the Browns also have a game against the Jets. Now the final division that I want to talk about is the NFC North, which has the Lions, the Bears, the Vikings, and the Packers. And earlier this season, it was the Bears and the Packers who were really in contention, but the Bears have completely fell apart, going from a 5-1 record all the way down to 5 straight losses at 5-6, and they just had a really bad loss to the Packers. And the Vikings are currently second in the division at 5-6. And I would say that the Vikings had a playoff chance before they lost to the Cowboys in a pretty sad loss. And because of that, the winner has to be the Packers. I don't think I need to explain this that much. Davante Adams, Adam Lazard, and Aaron Rodgers is just too strong for any of them to be able to beat. Their defense isn't that great, but it gets the job done. So I really do believe, and I'm sure you guys believe this too, Packers will win the NFC North. With that being said, that's all with this video. This has been AC Analysis talking about who I think will win each division. And the NFL weekly injury report update will hopefully come out on Thursday for you guys. I'm gonna go watch the football game right now. But before we end the video, if you guys enjoy consistent football content, remember, liking and subscribing would be really helpful. We're on the road to 100 subs now, and every sub helps. And if you guys want a shout out, make sure to comment down below to have your channel have a chance to get shouted out. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you in a few days. See you next time.